Well, we're turning the tables today. Normally, Ben has been the one that's been introducing all the different topics, and today Sandra and I are going to do the introduction, and Ben's going to be the one that we're going to be talking to. And we're in this wonderful series, at least I'm loving this, of being able to talk about the vision that God's given to us and sharing a number of different topics that we feel that God's put on our heart to believe for now and into the future, the next 5 to 10 years. And Ben, this one is you. It says this: we harness technology and media with excellence to impact people within our church and those far afield. And Ben, we've had a fascinating history with technology in this church that I would say accidentally, it sort of just happened. So as it turned out, I think we were one of the very first churches in the world to have a website. Yeah. I believe we were one of the very first churches in the world to stream live, even though it was a tiny little, like a postage stamp.
Yeah, I remember those little real media player,
real media.
Tiny.
We were, I think, the very first church to broadcast multiple cameras live on Facebook. We had a meeting with Danny Silk a few years ago, and it just happened that one of our team figured that technology out, and everyone's going, wow, how did you guys do that? We bought 4D cameras.
4K.
4K cameras. And we had the capability of doing that before the Toronto Blue Jays went 4K, before Hockey Night in Canada went 4K.
Yeah.
Why did we do that?
Isn't it? It's like, it's been a passion for us, I think, for a long time. And, you said about the website and the real media streaming back in the day. And I remember as essentially a child in the UK, 1994, I remember going onto the tacf.org website, seeing all those flags up on the navigation, thinking, wow, this church is just so inspiring in their kind of use of media. They're so ahead of their times. Obviously, if we looked at that website today, it would be comedy, I'm sure. But I think it is a part of our DNA. It's a part of who we've always been. It's certainly something that John Arnott has carried, hasn't it? He's always loving getting new technology, and he's introduced me to new technology. And it's been a big passion for me. And so as I've come into my role, first I was our kind of media and communications director here before becoming executive director. And it's something that we've always tried to push forward in. And why? Well, yeah, we do like it. We enjoy it, but it's bigger than that. There's something about utilizing technology to communicate in the best way possible, to present the gospel, to present the good news of Jesus and everything else that we're doing. I mean, all of these other parts of the vision are benefiting from the use of technology and the use of us, using whether that's cameras or web technology or social media or, lighting in the facility, sound in the facility. We've always tried to not be afraid of adopting new technologies, being pioneers, taking some risks. I recall we had some consultants help us with our cameras, and we were prepared to take some risks that these consultants from other churches and ministries were like, oh, we're kind of excited to see what happens, but we're not ready to take that risk ourselves. We've done the same. I remember we jumped over to YouTube for streaming live long before any other ministry, like you highlighted. And again, people were like, whoa, okay, let's see how you guys do. And I feel like we have a passion, not just in leadership, but as a whole church, to harness the potential of technology to reach further afield, to accomplish the mission that God's set out for us. And I find that exciting. I think it also helps us to appeal to new generations. And even now I'm in my late 30s and I find it hard to stay relevant, but I want to continue to push myself out of my comfort zones of what I like technology-wise or I like media-wise, to understand what is it that my daughters are going to be engaging with? What is it that the youth group are engaging with? What's relevant to them and what's not relevant? I love the way that Jesus came and met people where they were at. He literally would come into their towns. He would use language that was familiar to them. And that was very different to the way that the Pharisees and the Sadducees would address people. And so there's something about our ability to stretch ourselves to come in a way that is going to be relevant and meet people where they're at and bring them the good news of Jesus that supersedes all eras of time, all tradition, all cultural differences. The message of Jesus is the ultimate message that every person in humanity needs to hear. And so if we're called to a modern society, which I believe we are as a church in a modern developed country, we want to be using modern developed means to reach those people that we're called to minister to.
One last thing, Ben. It's not just technology, but it's people behind the technology. It's people behind the cameras, et cetera. One of our board members, Dr. Anthony Mosh is his name, his family used to own Toronto's very first multicultural television station.
Yeah.
And so he comes from a media background, and I love that our board, led by Anthony in this topic, but almost every board meeting we have is future looking, isn't it?
It always is. And they're often pushing us and stretching us to think differently when it comes to media and think differently when it comes to technology and to invest where we need to invest. And that's been such a blessing. And so, like you say, we've got people in those kind of board positions. We've also had staff and even students in the School of Ministry and interns that have helped us to innovate and to push and to adapt the way that we're doing things and try it in a different way. And sometimes we don't get it right. I mean, we've probably made more mistakes than most Christian TV networks out there and other organizations because I think we've been willing to take some of those risks and pioneer. But it brings me alive, and I think there's a whole number of our staff and our congregation that it gives us life to be pioneers in this area.
If we hadn't had technology, Ben, when COVID began, where would we be today?
Right. I mean, that's been enormous, hasn't it? I mean, we've seen over the last couple of years, we've seen the global church have to pivot like never before. And we're probably sick and tired of hearing that word, pivot. And not just church, but workplaces everywhere has had to invest in technology and media and the skills to continue doing what they're doing, but in a digital media environment. I don't think we had to invest anything in technology in the last 18 months.
We were there.
We were there. We'd already pioneered. We'd already made some of those intentional choices. And we were able to get our School of Ministry online. I mean, I recall within the first 12 months of the COVID pandemic, I think we'd filmed over 500 hours of new content. So that's not Sunday mornings, connect groups, any of the stuff we normally do. We filmed another 500 hours of training content and content that we'd never filmed before to be able to continue impacting and just to adjust to the new landscape of society.
Yeah.
And that excites me. And I think as we think about this in the context of vision moving forward, I like to think that we're going to continue to pioneer. We're going to continue to, be uncomfortable at times, continue to invest, and to make sure that we're using every means possible to communicate the good news of Jesus to our city and the world. And we really do have an international family that looks to us.
Thank you, Ben, for what you do.